Another round of applause. Come on for that performance. Thank you, guys.
Sorry about that. I got the hat on. I really like
Yeah,
it.
he's repping Frida merch, guys. You know what? You can buy the same hat on the way out. You won't look as cool as this guy, though. Thanks again for coming out, Ethan. This is really awesome. This movie is such a combination of just different talents, and it's so unique. I'm really curious what your origin in getting to the project was and getting cast and all of that was.
Yeah. Again, thanks for coming, everyone, and thanks for staying. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, it started fall of 2022. I got a self-tape request, and at that point, it was just like, send the tape out, see what happens. And I taped it. I remember the script being really good. I got sent the script as well. And then I waited for a few days, and then I got a Zoom call back with Vicky Thomas and RaMell and Jocelyn Barnes, co-writer and producer. And it felt okay. I was like, okay, this is still pretty cool. Like, again, I like this material. This feels nice. And then I waited. And then a few days later, I got the chemistry read with Brandon Wilson, who plays Turner. And it felt really good. It was just fun to be in a room with another actor, and Brandon was a really great actor to go into a room with and explore material with, and yeah, it felt really good. And then a few days later, I got the job.
That's awesome. You know, in this movie, the friendship that you and Brandon sort of build in order to portray Elwood and Turner, it's very palpable. You can feel it through the screen. And I'm just wondering what that process of like getting to know him, getting to work with him so intimately was, and if you guys still talk and all.
I saw Brandon. It's Wednesday, right?
Yes.
I just saw him on Monday. We still kick it. He's a really, really great dude, and it was amazing to go on this journey with him. Brandon and I are from the same like town, kind of grew up in the same town, went to like rival high schools at different times and everything, and we learned that in the chemistry read before we went in. And then fast forward to getting the job, we saw each other at the airport, and we were like, oh, hey, oh, cool, you made it, you got it? All right, let's make a movie. And we had a really good opportunity to, RaMell caught COVID on like the first week of shooting, first day of shooting, actually. And then our production designer, Nora Mendez, caught COVID the next day, so we had to stop shooting for a week. And during that time, Brandon and I just got to like walk around New Orleans and get food and hang out and watch movies and eat a lot of Waffle House. And that really helped just, we got closer, and it was just easier to arrive on set and explore difficult material and form this bond that Elwood and Turner had, because in real life we were bonding our own kind of, making our own kind of friendship.
It definitely shows on screen, too. Speaking of poor RaMell, what is he like on set? What's like working with him? And had you seen Hale County beforehand, or no?
No, I hadn't seen Hale County, but it was included in, when I got that self-tape email, it was, this is a novel by Colson Whitehead, and here's the article linking to the Real Life Dozier School for Boys, and this is RaMell, and this is his documentary, Hale County. And that's where I got all the information. That's where I dove into it all. Being on set with him was a joy. RaMell is one of my favorite people. He's a really easygoing guy, someone that, you can. It's not difficult to trust him. He really kind of sat down with us and got to know us on a very just human level. I think on the first day that we hung out, the three of us, we didn't really talk about the movie or the scripts. Like we were just yapping about like life, and it was really nice, and it kind of kickstarted the process of building this trust between him and Brandon and I, and that happened with everyone on the set. He was just a really easy person to follow. He moves with a confidence that's infectious. He's a really great collaborator, not only with actors but with everyone on the crew. So yeah, it was a joy to be able to work with him.
It seems like it's just a perfect formula for the best set you could possibly work on. Um, it seems like it was really helpful that you guys bonded so well and that this chemistry was there, because so much of this film is shot in a way that's so experimental. I feel like you really have to understand what they're thinking if you're going to go, oh, I'm going to go through with this and have this camera rigged on the scene for however many takes. I'm curious, when it came to that, was it any more difficult, or was it a challenge at all to really portray your character's psychology when moving with the cameras rigged to your body? Like that opening shot is just gorgeous of looking up into the orange tree and whatnot. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, so the moments where I was actually wearing a rig, was not as many as you think. I think I wore a rig twice or 3 times while shooting, and then you see moments where I'm wearing it twice. And those moments were, yeah, I was definitely moving past the, like, I have a giant camera on my chest and I can't break this, and to trying to be able to, like, stay connected physically in the scene. Yeah, that was a bit of a challenge, but it was also really exciting. It was, as much as, like, I didn't want to break it, I was also like, cool, I have a camera on my chest and I'm acting in a scene. Other than that, the camera operators are the ones that are holding it. So Sam Ellison, Joe Moffrey, and RaMell were all operating at different times. And so I had the opportunity to be off camera in full costume and still able to, like, I have to maneuver during certain parts, which would be awkward. But other than that, being able to be physically free from for the most part, being off camera was really helpful to kind of staying in character and bringing that physicality to life.
Yeah, I think it's ahead of its time in a lot of ways. I think people weren't ready for it. I remember when I was sitting in the theater watching it, I was like, oh, I'm watching a new cinematic perspective be crafted. Like, this is something that, in 20, 30 years, that maybe it'll be part of our textbooks, because this stuff's incredible. And you're no stranger to working on projects and stories that have either based in true events, or they have a lot of historical realism to them, and they're based in historical truths. So I'm wondering, as an actor, how do you approach, especially when these sets, you have a great time and you make really good friends, how do you approach these really sometimes heavy and really dark subject matter?
Yeah, I'm a happy guy, everyone. It just so happens that these projects come along and it magically all comes together where it works and I get to be involved, which I truly appreciate, because they were both really incredible experiences despite the material that we were working with. I don't know. As an actor, I think, especially with When They See Us, that was a situation where that's a real person, Yusuf Salam, and I'm doing my best to emulate who he was when he was 16, and I had the good fortune of getting to meet him and his mom and kind of build a relationship there and understand that, like, oh, he was just a kid, like he's just this light every time that he walked into a room. So there's no situation in which I can really be him, but the best I can do is emulate that light and that youth and try and bring it to life. And I think it was a similar process for Elwood, who is a fictional character. But I was able to kind of see that same light and youthfulness in him, and so just making that connection and then kind of living in that and being able to stay true to who I believed the character was, that helped go into these really dark scenes, and remain kind of intact. And I think another thing that I was fortunate to have was, like, the scenes would be tough, the moments would be tough, but I was able to step out and really live in between action and cut, and I had a lot of support with people on cast and crew who were going through the experience with me. So yeah, I was able to lean on others, which is really nice to have in that environment.
Awesome. Kind of going off of that, was there one scene or moment in Nickel Boys that filming it was truly a challenge for you?
Yeah, that White House scene is rough. That was rough, and the sweatbox scene was rough. But I remember that the day that we did the White House scene, that was particularly difficult for, it was just everyone involved. And that's one of those moments where it was beautiful to really have, support. I remember Hamish, who plays Spencer. That was really difficult for him. And I remember we were done shooting that day, and we kind of all come out of the house, and he breaks down, and RaMell's right there for him, which was really sweet. And the other actors were there for each other, and that was really nice to have after shooting something so difficult. But yeah, the White House scene and the sweatbox scene those were tough days.
Wow, just incredible. I'd like to open it to the audience for a couple questions if you guys have been brewing them during the length of the movie. I see one in the middle right there.
Yeah, so I was curious, you talked about it earlier with the rig and stuff, but obviously as an actor, one of your biggest tools is your face, and yet in most of the pivotal scenes of this movie, your face is not in it, it's from your perspective. Did that change how you performed any of those scenes at all? And were you thinking about it actively, or were you trying to just act normally and not overthink the process?
Great question. I was trying to act normally. I was trying to, despite being off camera, really live in the scenes as much as I could, because although I'm not on screen, my partner is. It's like it's all of them, and so they're not able to look at me, but they know that I'm there. They can hear my voice, and so I'd be doing a disservice to them if I wasn't, trying to really bring something for them to work with. So yeah, I tried to, move pretty normally, and it also gives a kind of fun opportunity to play a little bit more. You're off screen, so you can you can really dive into it in a different way than when the camera's right on your face. So yeah, good question.
Awesome. Any more right here?
Oh yeah, thank you for a really great performance, but do you feel guilty that you didn't suffer more in your personal life and in order to prepare for this?
Wow. No, I don't think that. I don't think I didn't feel guilty. I was able from the very beginning know that I've lived a very very privileged life. I think that's why I respected the material so much. Why I did my best to connect with Elwood and get as close to Elwood as I possibly could. To do my best to service those that did have it a lot harder than I did and did have to actually experience this at the Dozier School for Boys and other reform schools across the country. So yeah, there was no guilt, just the feeling of just feeling that responsibility and then kind of acknowledging in my privilege in the midst of that.
Awesome. Way in the back right there.
Yeah, hi. What would you say the symbolism is between all the animals that are in shots and you as a character?
That's a good one.
That is a good question. I have my thoughts on the symbolism of all the animals. I know how those things kind of like interact with Elwood, not necessarily how they I can't compare Elwood to an alligator. I don't think that's at least for me. I don't think that's his core. So yeah, that is a good question, and I'd be willing to share some of the things, some of those moments with animals that I've kind of learned after watching this movie a few times and talking to RaMell, but I have no comparison to each other. No problem.
Any other questions? One right here.
As far as like the film goes, I don't know if I'm correct on this, but I feel like there's a lot of like cuts to what was like more so what was happening in America and how forward we were moving in time. but however, we're still stuck in time when we go back to the nickel, like the nickel farm or wherever, back to Nickel Academy. How do you feel like you want this film to impact us today in the culture and the climate that we're in today, especially in like how polarizing politics can be, and like just in like the culture that we're in right now? Because I feel like I really like this film because it was showing the progression of America on like a whole different like side that was so separate from what was going on in the film. So what do you want the biggest takeaway to be from this film as far as like the climate that we're in? Sorry, that was a long question.
It was a good one. I think that there are a few things that I want people to take away. With the political climate, I feel like the biggest thing for me is the importance of education and being aware not only of the idea that we can continue to progress but still have these, you know, really awful issues and really things that to address that we aren't addressing, but also shine a light on stories that haven't really been talked about or discussed in a real way. I learned about the Dozier School for Boys from the email containing the self-tape request, and that doesn't feel right. It feels like I should have been made aware about that school's existence and other schools' existence before then, maybe in school. And so it's kind of like you have this feeling of disappointment when you discover something like that. And so it just really shines a light on the need to be educated, the willingness to be educated, the willingness to pour resources into education, because that's the only way that we're going to progress in multiple ways, not just one way, but, you know, a way to progress here while we're also progressing here, rather than what you kind of saw, which is progressing here and then look at what's happening here. I hope that answered your question.
That was a great response. Any more questions? I don't want to keep us here too late. I know it's already 11. Card over here.
I was just wondering, piggybacking on what Bobby said about seeing like a future aspect of cinema. You know, you put cameras on, and then you're seeing the perspective that you're seeing. At what point in the process do you actually get to see that the thing was working? Like it's like I was watching it, I was thinking about like Terrence Malick and other films that like really, in a sort of dreamlike way, just puts you in the moment, you know, and you can transition in time and in perspective and still like be immersed. Like, did you see dailies, or at what point did you actually get to see and have it put to you, this experiment it absolutely is going to work?
Great question. This is fun, guys. Yeah, so I've talked about trust a little bit, and that's what I'm talking about. When we were in the process of filming this movie, we didn't know. Like we didn't know whether it would work or not, but we knew that it felt good. I knew that like I was coming, you know, back home after a day, and I'd be like, wow, that was cool what we did on set today. I had fun, and it felt really great. And so, and then after that, you kind of you trust. I think that after filming, I didn't see anything until I had to go in for a little ADR, and that's when I saw, you know, some scenes that were cut together, and I was like, whoa. All right, that's pretty cool. That's really, all right. I like what I'm seeing. But I didn't get the whole thing. And then like another year goes by, and I'm like, dang. Well, I hope it's all right. I still trust him. Like, it felt good. And then the next time I saw anything was when I went to watch it in, I think, June of 2024, a few months, before the world premiere. And I watched it with my parents, and Hamish was there with his daughter, and that was like, I remember I saw our name, like my name went and Brandon's name went, and I started crying because of the movie and everything that it kind of brought to me as I was like suddenly back in my body. I also then realized like, oh, that's what we made almost 2 years ago. Like that's our movie. Oh my goodness. And I was overwhelmed because I was like, I didn't expect it to blow my mind the way it did. I was like, I feel like it's going to be great. I feel like I'm going to be proud, but it was even more than that. So yeah, it was a special kind of feeling to put so much trust and love into something and then see that result, not knowing what it's going to be and just being floored.
Well, I think that's an incredible note to end on. I want to thank all of you for coming to this screening. I want to thank Ethan's show very much. Can we get a big round of applause for him? I would also like to thank Alexander Canelos for making this connection and getting us this event going on. Thanks, man.
Thank you all
Have a
so
good night,
much.
everybody.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. Thank you, man.